Okay.
Sweet.
And let's see. When you're cutting this, you look for that jump in audio.
And go.
And it starts.
Start.
Started.
Start.
Welcome to another episode of Guys with Pencils. I'm Andrew Murray.
Adam Hines.
How you doing today, Adam?
We've got guests.
We do. This is our first Skype interview.
Yeah.
We're getting high classy here, right?
I know. Fucking technology, man.
Totally.
We have Edmund and Tommy, Team Meat. They're here. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hi.
I was like, oh, fuck, did we lose them already?
And they're calling from California?
Yep. Santa Cruz, California.
8 o'clock p.m. your time?
Yeah.
11 o'clock Canada time? And, yeah, man, thank you so much for doing this.
No problem.
I know you guys probably have busy, retarded schedules, and you have a lot of work that you need to get done, and it's like...
Yeah, I have a fucking Volkswagen Lego that's barely time into it yet.
I was gonna watch Roseanne.
That show's fucking good.
It's a good show. He's got a point, eh?
So, man, Edmund, how you feeling now that Isaac's out and shit?
Better than the day it came out and the day before it came out. Yeah.
Why is that? Could you elaborate on that a bit?
Oh no, like releasing is stupid either way. Like Tommy got to see it. Like I didn't think. See, did you think that I would be remotely stressed out for the release of Isaac?
Yeah.
You did? See, I thought I would because like the game I only worked on the game for like a little over 3 months.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, it's a small game and it is what it is and it's cheap and I'm proud of it and I'll release it and that's that. Like I thought it wouldn't be that bad, but I totally kind of lost it for about 2 days.
Yeah.
Now I'm fine. It's over.
I was glad to hear that. At least
Game's out. It's over. For the most part, it works for everybody, and we're doing an update today, and
awesome.
And that's it. And Tommy and I are already trying to figure out what we're going to be doing for Tig Jam.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Sounds good.
Yeah, man. The game turned out really fucking good. I've put far too many hours into it that I should have. I should be working, but instead I'm playing Isaac. 5 hours so far. Yeah, I want to close that window.
Well, yeah, thanks. It was cool to work on, mostly because I got like a lot of I prototyped a lot of ideas that we'll be using in future games, which is pretty cool. It's something I didn't think I needed to prototype the ideas, but did it either way, and then it turned out to be way better than I expected. I thought I'd understand it right away, but after actually experiencing development with a roguelike type formula, I learned a great deal more than I assumed that I knew when I started.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to hopefully be able to apply these things to other things, like real life.
Like real life.
So, I don't want you guys to think like we're going to do this like a typical interview that you've heard millions of times before on the internet where people were like, so tell us, like, what is Super Meat Boy and what is he made of and how come this? We want to talk about stuff from the perspective of the designer and of the coder, because from what we've experienced with doing this podcast, we find that a lot of our listeners are really interested in the stuff of like getting to where you're getting to where you're at right now, and you guys, in our opinion, have made it because you were able to create a game that broke all the possibilities of becoming super popular and having people wanting more of it. I mean, the ability and the time and effort that you'd taken to create these games, and then just it's just like everything that I've read about and heard about is just like it's all been working. I'm sure it's been an uphill battle for you guys on your end, and that there's stuff that we don't hear about, but for the most part, for everyone who sees the game and loves it, they're just like, holy shit, these guys have done it. And I mean, from our perspective, like, where did you guys start out doing this? Like, how did you meet, and how did you first start out getting interested in this kind of stuff?
You go first, Tommy. I always go fucking first. I'm sick of telling my story.
So this is like.
You can be as abbreviated if you want, if you've told this a million
I'm going
times.
to because I don't want to talk a lot. Let's see. I wanted to make games when I was little. I flunked out of college
Awesome.
because college is dumb.
Yes.
Yeah.
I became a programmer. I did like server stuff and database stuff for corporate companies, and I hated it. Quit that, and I moved to Amsterdam, and I was working there as an Xbox programmer, and those guys were dickheads. And I didn't want to work for anybody anymore because people take advantage of people that work hard. So I started on a game, and it didn't go anywhere. And then I started talking to Edmund again after years of not talking to him, and we decided to make a Flash game.
Yeah.
We did that, and then we made Meat Boy.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah, that was very abbreviated.
Yeah, I know.
condensed
Hey,
that down.
that's fine, because I mean, everyone's heard the stories before too. Like when you look up any interviews that you guys have done previously in the past, and we don't want to rehash stuff, but we like to find the interesting factoids that you guys could push in about your personal experiences. Like when you started, like I'd like to hear about your ideas about working for yourself. Like as a developing your own games in this type of industry, how did you kind of was just like, all right, this is all.
Like where did the mindset come from?
Yeah, like I mean that kind of determination.
I know. I can tell you exactly where it came from, and I have told the story before, but it's worth telling again.
Yeah, sure.
There was an exact moment for me when I was a freshman in high school, and I think most, especially guys, well, I mean maybe girls too, but know that like being a freshman in high school, if you're a nerd and you're not a social person, it's hard regardless, right?
Yeah.
That time in life is insane. It doesn't make any sense. You're getting boners for no reason.
God, it's like he's reading my mind.
Still happening. Yeah, it's a confusing, depressing, and awful time. I think and transitioning from middle school to high school sucks, especially because for me everybody was kind of like there's the pressure of what do you want to do when you're out.
Exactly.
Fuck yeah, man.
And it's thrown right in your face, like right from the get-go. Like,
yeah.
And my freshman year in high school, we had these like guest speakers that would come in and talk to the class about what they did as for work or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember any of the other ones, but there was a lot. There were all these guest speakers, but the one guy he came in and everybody thought this guy was a loser. And hopefully he doesn't hear this. His name's Clay Butler. And he was a local comic artist, and he did his own independent comic called Sidewalk Bubblegum, which got picked up by a few newspapers, and he was making enough money off of it to get by. And he also had a show on public access, which was pretty supported back in the early 90s here in Santa Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
And he came in and he there's this thing, I don't think it gets to Canada, but it was pretty popular in the 90s called the Spike and Mike Sick and Twisted Festival.
The animation festival. We heard of that one.
So that was I loved that.
Mm-hmm.
It would come through, and he actually had an animation that he made for the festival, and it got in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like right then and there, he already sold me. Like I'm like, oh my god, this guy's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
On animation in the Sick and Twisted Festival. And he showed it, and I thought it was hilarious, and nobody else really seemed to care. And I just thought this guy was the coolest guy that I'd ever seen. And I knew right away that what I wanted to do was what he was doing, and what he was doing was whatever he wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted. And that was it from then. It's like I don't know what it is that I'm going to do to be able to make enough money to support myself, but all I want is to be able to have complete control over that.
Yeah.
Able to just do whatever I want to do and just be okay with making enough to get by.
Mm-hmm. So
that's
when
you of all that stuff.
Yeah, that's really awesome, man. Because like we both we went to school for animation, and like when you're in that, it's always like, yo, you got to get in this studio. There's a huge focus of just getting into a studio, and that's great. Working in a studio, I've had a lot of fun doing that. But when I see guys like you doing exactly what you just said, whatever the fuck you want, and making a living from it, it's just like, oh man, that seems like because nobody gets into art and like creative work like game making and whatnot to go do someone else's shit. You get into it because you want to make your own things, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think I don't know what it is. Like Tommy and I have talked about this too, and I think it's just a personality type.
Yeah.
Like there's a certain personality type where from a very young age you're driven to do what you want, and you don't usually fit in, or
Yeah.
you kind of go against the grain a bit, and like so when Tommy and I met, and we didn't meet directly, we knew of each other. We knew of each other through our work, and this was back when we were both 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
And back then, like all the, I guess you'd say independent artists or independent. I don't know what you would call us back then, but kids from the 90s who were driven into independence.
Yeah.
One of those kids from the 90s was Tom Fulp, who runs Newgrounds.com and is like the head of the behemoth.
Yeah.
So he back then made Newgrounds, and it was a portal for his stuff. But like by '99, it was an automated portal where you could submit your own Flash animations to.
Yeah.
And around that time, both Tommy and I were making like interactive Flash animations.
And
Tommy was actually making little games.
You guys were just doing that for fun too, right? Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
there was no. I mean, we're fucking 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
We didn't care about. But back then, you actually could make money off.
Yeah,
of
I was making like $200-300 a month off little crappy banner ads.
Yep, I was too. It was a great time. Like,
Nice.
It was a fucking awesome time. Like, the internet was just starting to really, really pick up full force. You could make money off of things. This was before the crash in 2000, when everything went to shit.
Yeah.
But like, you could just make whatever you wanted, and actually, when you're 19.
Following.
Yeah, when you're
fun.
19, the money is like, that was a lot of money then.
Oh god, yeah.
I was like, oh my
I was
god.
in college, and that was like I was like the richest kid in college.
I remember getting a check for $500 from ads once.
Yeah.
And going,
Wow.
Fuck, man.
Yeah.
Like, this is it.
Yeah.
Then the next check was $200. Then the next check was $70.
Yeah.
It just kept going down. But back then it was like there was a whole group of independent creatives. I don't know what you call them. That were in this little kind of web ring, and they called it the EN scene, which meant everything nothing. I don't know where it came from, but it was a huge just web ring of like all these independently done websites that were entertainment websites that either were like creative writing, videos, just odd shit. And majority of those people went on to make shitloads of money and ended up doing a lot of crazy shit. Like, I know a couple of them like went on to having their own cartoons on like Cartoon Network and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and
That's incredible. It's like a time that wasn't ever really documented for this particular industry in some ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I remember.
It was a little pocket.
Yeah.
It was a little
Everybody
pocket.
sort of knows each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, man. I was gonna say, like, I remember that because I was introduced to your work, Edmund, back when I was in high school, right? Because I was playing the games you were putting up on Newgrounds. I used to go to Newgrounds all the time and fucking spend hours downloading these games and Flash cartoons on a 56K modem.
Yeah.
Like a little gem called Nail Jesus to the Cross.
Oh, I don't remember that.
That wasn't my introduction to you. The first game I played of yours was Bitch Hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah. See how expressive the medium was even then.
Yeah, definitely.
What happened? What was the situation?
Actually, what happened was I saw this thing on 2020 about this girl whose dad gave her like $250,000 to make this site called Goosehead, and it pissed me off. So I made Bitch Hunt, which is basically this girl from Goosehead, and it was Duck Hunt, and you'd shoot her and she'd fall down, and I'd pop up with her and throw her in a wood chipper. And they threatened to sue me, and then they gave me a job, so then I just turned it into my ex-girlfriend. So.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's just like just the spontaneity of doing that stuff back then. Because I find that with I don't want to say our generation, but just like people we know when we got out of school, we still feel very timid about approaching certain things. Like we're very hesitant in many ways about taking a risk. Whereas you guys are just like, oh, that fucking bitch on 2020.
That's exactly what it was. And then a day later, I had a game.
Yeah, like I mean,
And
you
then
guys
a day later, I got a call at like 11 o'clock at night saying, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do lawsuit. I'm like, oh, well, I'll take it down. They're like, oh, well, do you want a job?
I wonder how many of us got lawsuit calls because
Oh, man,
I had
bunch.
2.
Yeah, well, you had.
I had really,
crazier
really
ones
bad
than I
ones.
did.
Didn't you guys ever like freak out about this? Like, oh my God, is this? We have some sort of responsibility here that we need to, great power comes great responsibility, and we need to fucking make sure. Or were you just kind of like, well, fuck this?
I felt scared too.
Yeah, the first one I got, but then I don't know, nothing came of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, yeah, what, are they going to sue me for $1 million for each copyright infringement? Well, I don't think they're going to be able to do that, so...
You know what it feels like? It feels like when you do a prank call and then somebody, like, star 69 you and says, I'm going to call the police! And you're like, oh, fuck! Let's never do this again!
I think no, but honestly, I think you're right. That happens to so many people that they get afraid that there's some repercussion is going to come down the line, and they won't take the risk that's necessary to get out there.
It's even little things like we're being sissies with little things about this podcast for fuck's sake, because we're like, we can never mention the animation studios we work at, or they'll fucking fire us,
and they'll never want us again, and then we'll be 50 and we won't have any money,
and we'll be blown living.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but yeah, it definitely. I mean, obviously, Tommy and I both share that frame of mind where it's like, I think it's a personality type, though. Like, let's push this until we see the limits.
Like today at the store.
At the store. Yeah, example. We went to Safeway today, and Tommy needed a balloon blown up.
Yeah.
There was nobody there. So what Tommy did was he grabbed the fucking pager phone and then paged people to come to the flower things. Repeatedly, nobody came. Yeah. So then what I did is I just went behind the counter and grabbed the balloon that he needed and I blew it up.
Yeah, and there was a...
And also, I served the lady there. The other lady was in line, so I, of course, blew up her balloon and gave her balloon.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
No, but that's the thing is I think you don't just... If you just stop caring, like if you just... I mean, logically... What's the worst that could happen?
They're not going to call the cops on it because you're not stealing.
Yeah.
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 Anything bad.
It's just it's. I guess it's questioning these bizarre rules. That
if
don't...
anything, you're improving the service there.
We did. We totally did. Yeah, that lady got what she wanted.
Yeah.
That's fucking amazing. I gotta ask, man, could you talk about those 2 lawsuits you got and what they were for? I'm so curious.
Mine are really bad, like really bad. Okay. So I ran a website called This Is a Cry for Help.
I know, I used to go to that one.
So do you remember the quizzes? There were like serial killer quiz, like
yeah.
Okay.
I took those.
So okay. One of them was the best way to die quiz or whatever. I forget what I called it. Like your ideal way of death.
Yeah.
And I put that up. A few years pass, and I get this call. From a lawyer saying that he represents so-and-so, who is the mother of this girl. And I'm like, I don't know who that girl is. And they're like, oh, it's all over the news. I'm like, what? No, that's the second one. I'll get to that one. They're like, I'm like, I don't know who that is. And they're like, oh, she's all over the news. I'm like, where? And they're like, oh, it's in Australia. I'm like, oh, I don't get Australian news. I don't know where you're talking about. So supposedly some girl who was on a reality TV show in Australia was cyberbullied and killed herself.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last website that she went to before she killed herself was mine, and she took the quiz on how to kill yourself.
Oh my God!
Killed herself the minute she got the result. Okay.
Oh my God!
Some people will probably feel like guilty in some way for this, but
dude, I feel guilty, and I just heard the story.
That's just, but it's not. And I'm telling you, like I'm talking to this guy on the phone. I'm like, what do you want from me? They're like, well, we want you to take down the site, and we want a public apology or whatever else. And I said, no, I'm sorry that this woman's kid is dead, but I have nothing to do with this death. Like,
yeah.
Like the idea that it's like the idea that this girl went to my site and then was inspired to kill herself by something that she saw there, and not that she wanted to kill herself and was obsessed with death, so she shoots things that were death related, then took like the obviously more logical thing. Yeah, and I felt bad. I didn't want to hurt this mother any more than she was.
No, yeah.
So I said, yeah, okay, and I took the quiz down, and I said, I think I just said sorry, and I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to be involved in this. I don't want to belittle this woman, because if she attacks me directly, I'm going to say, you should have been watching your daughter. Like, This is not. I'm not her mother.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. The content on my site is adult content. It said so when you went there, and so on and so forth. But
yeah.
I just didn't want to go there, so I took it off. That was it.
Wow.
Then.
So like even after a situation like that, you guys are just kind of like, well, let's see how else we could push these boundaries or
at this point. So there was a part of me that was like questioning what I was doing, because my intentions weren't to ever hurt anybody, but I was definitely, dancing around dark things.
Yeah.
And at the time that I made those, I was probably in a very dark place, and I wasn't there by the time that this stuff was happening, which is why I was okay with taking it down. But then this happened. About a year after this, maybe even less, maybe 6 months after this, I get a call from another lawyer from Seattle who's representing a guy who's being accused of murdering his wife. Okay.
Jesus.
Holy fuck. This is some heavy shit.
Yeah, I know, eh?
The story is that this guy just got back from the war in the Gulf or whatever. And he had like Gulf War syndrome. And he murdered his wife after he found out that she'd been cheating on him while he was away. And he cut off her head. Or something.
Shit.
Something crazy. And, in his history, one of the last things he looked at was the serial killer quiz on my website, which says, what serial killer are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this guy was saying that he wanted me to come in to defend this guy and say that the results of the quiz don't actually reflect anything or something along those lines. Like, he wanted me to come in and defend the guy that killed his wife.
Yeah.
Something?
Yeah.
That sounds like the shittiest fucking lawyer I've ever
Yeah. And I said, no, I don't. I'm not. Number one, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to be a part of this. I'm not involved in this.
Yeah.
And the guy was like nice in the beginning, and then a day later calls me and says he's going to subpoena me. Period. And I said okay, and then I deleted my website, and there was no trace of it.
Whoa.
And now many people know that that's why the website vanished. Like a few of the people, like I had a bunch of followers that were in the forums who like hated on me for deleting the website without explanation.
Well,
that I did it to spite them in some way.
yeah.
But I did it because I was over it. The majority of the content on there wasn't funny to me anymore. Didn't mean to me anymore, and it seemed to just be hurting people.
Right.
So I just.
Well, you grew up, it sounds like, in some ways. You were just kind of like, when you made it, you thought, hey, this is funny. And I mean, then, after 2 fucking lawyer calls, you'd kind of like, well, maybe I should rethink this strategy of.
Yeah, but you go through those things. Those are the negatives of pushing things.
Mm-hmm.
You push the envelope, you're bound to have things.
Yeah.
Look at you in some negative way, and through all of Super Meat Boy development, we got bit on the ass a few times for many different things.
Really.
I wouldn't take them back though. I don't regret anything we did.
No.
It seems like the stuff that you were originally talking about with your first initial encounters with lawyers, in some regards, kind of prepped you for
it hardened you.
the shit. So when someone else comes up to be like, "Well, listen here, kids, we do things this way," you would have been like, "It's like, yeah, sure, you do that. We'll do it our way."
I pretend to be a lawyer now, and that's how I get paid people that refuse to pay us.
Yeah, Tommy did play lawyer, and he got like $8,000.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so gonna do that.
Well, they wouldn't pay us.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna say who it is.
Okay.
It's our U.S. publisher, the ones that published Super Meat Boy Ultra Edition. They were not gonna pay us anything, and then they tried to blame us for all the stuff that they fucked up on, and so they still owe us like $7,000, but they weren't gonna pay us anything. But I got $8,000 by only acting like I was talking to a lawyer.
The lawyer's telling me this.
Yeah.
You talk to yourself a bit.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I would watch Murphy Brown.
I don't watch that show.
Okay. She was a lawyer.
Yeah.
But was she? Yeah. Murphy Brown was? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I watched Murphy Brown, and then I pretend. And then once I watched
Night Court.
Yeah, I watched a Night Court.
Geniuses.
Development.
Yeah.
You're a crook, Captain Hook. But yeah, it kind of prepared because everybody's full of shit, and all you have to do is say lawyer, 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 and people will do what you want, especially if they know they're fucking wrong.
Yeah.
Which they did.
Yeah,
And if you were right, which I did.
I gotta ask though, like, did you say you were a lawyer, or did you say you were going to get your lawyer?
Oh no, I said I was talking to our lawyer.
And he's saying this.
Yeah.
Whoa.
My lawyer is telling me da 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 da.
I've been advised.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was a good one. I used that one.
Oh man, I need a fucking notebook right now.
Yeah.
Like, I need to like take this.
I even talked directly to their lawyer.
You did what?
I got money out of him. They weren't going to give us anything, and he was like, "Well, due to Section 9.1 of the contract you signed, blah blah blah." And I said, "Well, my lawyer says that this has everything to do with end users, blah blah blah," and just rattled off this whole thing. And then we got a check, which we need to go and deposit.
Yeah, we should.
I'm kind of holding on to
Do
it
that before we put this episode up, okay?
because
Yeah.
they are going out of business because they suck.
Yeah, we had a feeling the reason why we weren't getting paid was because something was happening with them internally.
I don't think we're very good at anything because every other retail copy of the game has already outsold them.
Yeah,
And they
that's
were in
true.
Walmart.
Wow.
Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, our UK publisher Mamba has been killing it.
Yeah,
Like,
they are awesome.
the UK version is selling really, really well. It actually sold out.
Yeah.
And they've already restocked.
And then Buka, that was our Russian one.
Yep.
And they're really, really good. And then Heda,
German.
which is our German, they're also very, very good. Just Gator.
You know, and
They suck.
that's the shitty thing is like, so I've had 3 experiences with US publishers, and they're always bad. And you always think the opposite because you think, how can I trust somebody who's way the fuck in another country that has different rules?
Yeah, that all of their laws are carried out in their territory. So if we ever
Exactly,
wanted to head up games, which we never ever would because they're awesome, we'd have to go to Germany. How could we do that?
Yeah, it's retarded. But so you don't trust them. And you try to get as much as you can up front for these foreign publishers, and then you give U.S. publishers the benefit of the doubt because it's U.S. But in reality, the U.S. is the most fucked up.
Yeah, those guys.
Wow.
I don't anticipate those guys being in business too much longer because they did.
Wow. That's crazy.
Do you think it's just like because they have a predatory attitude towards it in the sense where they look at you and they're just like, oh, these are 2 fucking guys making games in their apartment or whatever?
Yeah,
I do think that
was a little bit of it. Yeah.
And I do think that there's the U.S. has the lawyer mentality
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, fuck these guys, they're not gonna, they're not
we
gonna
can
get
do
money
whatever
from us.
we want. They don't have fake lawyers. Well, sir.
Well, it's great. It's great to know that. I mean, again, it's that risk factor. We think like, for a lot of people we've interviewed before that who do freelance work as an artist or they're trying to get their feet in the ground here. There's a lot of talk about like people getting screwed over by clients that they're purchasing, and you guys are like, no, just go balls to the walls and just fucking hold your ground, which is a really good attitude that I don't think we've come across yet.
Yeah.
That is something we're good at. We're good at sort of holding our ground.
That's awesome. I guess that's part of the personality thing you were talking about.
Yeah. I gotta ask though, like, because the more we get into like doing our own things and whatnot, like there's always the business side. Like you got to make business calls, business emails, and then pretending to be a lawyer and all that shit. How did you guys learn how to do that? Did you just play it by ear?
Did you gotta like take a night course or something?
You'd be surprised on what logic will do.
Yeah. Logic is powerful.
Logic will always solve the problem. Logic and and honesty, really. Like just think of how you just think as logically as possible about how things will turn out, and they most likely will turn out that way.
Yeah,
that's true. I guess people get warped over and they think like, oh my god, they probably
scared.
they have something up their sleeve that we don't know about.
It's understandable, and especially like when there's big risks involved and stuff. Like when we were starting out, and things have actually changed in indie games a lot in the past 2 years. But when we were starting out, a lot of people were like, "Whoa, I can't believe your headshot is that crazy picture of you guys.
Yeah,
like that's so unprofessional."
Yeah. The whole professionalism thing was strange.
Like it's that whole like, it's just question everything. Just question the reasons why. Like that came about because Nintendo said we need a headshot for you guys if we're going to represent you in this this little thing that they were doing in
headshot
London.
In a bio.
Headshot in a bio. And we just thought it was hilarious that why would we were like bums. We basically are bums, or were bums at that point.
Yeah.
You were.
Yeah.
You were living in the office.
Yeah, I was living in the office.
He had negative $800 in the bank.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were like, how are we supposed to have headshots? And why would we have headshots?
And why would we seriously do a bio? Yeah, Tommy Refenes started.
No, and we're looking at all these other people's things, and it's like, so-and-so Games is an award-winning blah, blah, blah. We have an award-winning writers. We have award-winning animators.
Award-winning blah, blah, blah.
And it just went on and on and on, and it seemed like just like, number one, logically, nobody's reading this.
Yeah.
Like,
Good call on that one.
Doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
They're not getting any information for it.
No,
So we
one,
thought,
no one bought a game because they had an award-winning writer.
oh my god, did you see that team's bio? They have an
Yeah.
award-winning writer.
Wow, I am interested in this game now.
And those guys are so professional looking and handsome in that picture.
Yeah.
I feel so stupid because I'm the guy who would be like, did you see this? They got like, it says on the back of the box they won an Oscar for this.
But that so basically we saw that and we're like, you know what? Let's actually give them something that people will actually look and read.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to Sears. First we went to a thrift shop. I don't think it has a name.
Yeah.
Thrift store.
Thrift store.
We bought a bunch of little sweater vests that were way too small for me, and
Pretty
then
small for me. Too.
yeah, and then we went with my wife to Sears. They were closed. And another thing to note here is when Sears stays open till like 9 or something over here in the U.S. I don't know if you guys have Sears there, but
Yeah, we got Sears Canada.
photo area where they do like professional photos.
Yeah.
The photo area closes at like 6.
Yeah.
But there's no doors. It's just like a little open area.
So wait, is this the part where your logic kicks in like, well, if there are no doors, we
Yes.
might as well.
So what we did is we didn't have any kind of like professional looking backdrop for us at all, and we didn't have good lighting anywhere. So we just went to Sears and went back there. No one was there, so we just went back, turned on the level lights, pulled the backdrop, and set it up. And my wife just started taking pictures of us, and that turned out to be our headshot.
Oh my god.
Oh man, that's fucking awesome.
You guys are amazing.
It was searched good, cool bio or really good bio, and we just copy and pasted like a doctor's bio.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did.
We did his names and
Put ours, yeah.
Oh my god, you guys are amazing.
Wow.
I'm learning so much tonight, man.
Let's go fucking break into a store. And do
Yeah, I
some
know.
shit.
If you hear some sort of international news of 2 Canadians who fucking broke into a Sears tonight, you know it was your fault.
It's not breaking and entering when there are no doors.
That's true.
That's true.
So the Sears was open.
Yeah.
So what was the worst thing that was going to happen? An employee would come back and go, you guys aren't supposed to be back here. Oh, we're sorry.
Sorry.
What are they? They're not going to call the cops.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too how much you can get away with if you just act like you're supposed to be there.
Yeah, if your integrity is just kind of like, I own this place, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Mm.
If you act like you're supposed to be in a place, you're fine.
Yeah.
It's just like our IGF, last year's IGF.
This year.
It's still this year, huh?
Yeah, still this year.
This year's IGF, we've told IGF stories forever, and we get really stressed out about IGF stuff, but this year at GDC we're up for a bunch of big awards, which we assumed we were going to lose to Minecraft because, it's Minecraft. But just to double check so we weren't stressed out, we decided to go backstage and look at all the awards beforehand. which you can do.
Yeah,
Because if you just walk around acting like you know what you're doing, you're supposed to be there.
all you have
they
to
let
do
you.
is name drop somebody that is supposed to be there. And you're,
The best part of that whole experience is we went back there to look at that, and then got instructed that we can't be back here. We need to be in the green room. So we went to the green room, which is where everybody was like doing everything, and I invited my wife back there to the green room as well.
Yeah.
Then openly joked about it would be really funny if we crashed the IGF final speech because we lost the grand prize the year before to the guy that was going up and doing the speech.
Right.
The head of the IGF told us that we had to do that.
yeah.
So we did.
Yeah. We made it memorable.
Yeah.
Oh my, you guys are...
Anybody would have remembered what Andy said. I think they remember what we said.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah. But that was fun. It was nice to be on stage for one last time.
Yes, I never got to be on stage except for that one time, and I will never be on stage. So we won some sort of Game Developers Choice Lifetime Achievement Award.
Jeez, you guys are...
10 years.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. Like, So obviously, like, just from Super Meat Boy alone, it's brought, like, I know you guys have been at this for a long time, but Super Meat Boy is kind of where things popped off and a lot of shit started happening. And it's one of the things specifically being Indie Game the Movie, which I've been following for a long, long time, and I backed and all that shit. How did that happen? Like, did they just call you? Did they show up at your door with a camera? Like, what?
They contacted Tommy.
Yeah, they called me because Alec Paloka, the guy that made Aquaria, he had told them about me and that I would be somebody they should interview or whatever, because they were kicking around at that time doing like a whole bunch of interviews. And yeah, they called me. I talked to them on the phone a whole bunch of times, and then I told Ed that they were coming down for GDC the year that Meat Boy was in the IGF. And yeah, they just filmed us, and I guess we're interesting to talk to, so we became a big part of the movie.
Wow. I saw the trailer, Adam showed it to me, and I was just kind of like, holy shit, this looks amazing. And one of the quotes that specifically stood out in my mind was when you guys said, I mean, I'm probably going to mispronounce it, but it goes like, you know, that's 2 years of your life that you're
if you
just
can't get the work done.
Exactly.
It's just gone.
It's gone, and there goes 2 years. And like, part of me thinks when you guys are talking, like, yeah, we just do it for fun and we do this, and I mean, now we're making money off of it. But I mean, do you still have that that hesitation at all whenever you begin any type of work regarding to your games, that you're just kind of like, holy shit, this is going to be a big undertaking? I mean, we've been successful before, but now this is starting to look like, could this be just, you know, just be a phase, or what? You know, what are we going to do?
I don't know.
I think for me, it's just that I need to be working on something. I need to be creating something. Like, I think our next game will do well.
Yeah.
If it doesn't do well, that would suck. But I need to work on something, and I want to work on this thing.
But you guys are in charge of your own stuff that you create too, right? Like, you're not some studio is hiring you and being like, well, here's the demographic that we want to reach, and we would like you guys to reach it. Yeah. So I mean, I guess there's no real kind of pressure in some ways that you don't have to be.
Yeah, it's a weird situation that we're in now. Like, we are in exactly the opposite area that we were a year from now. Like, a year ago, it was the opposite. It's opposite. Completely the opposite.
Yeah.
Totally, like, we were so stressed and dependent on this game doing well, because we had invested all of our money and time into it. We had nothing else. If it didn't do well, we were literally fucked.
Yeah.
We were fucked.
Yeah.
It was I go work at Epic.
Yeah. Tommy was talking about actually getting a real job in the industry, and I would just go back to making Flash games and being poor. I mean,
that scares me even more, because you guys are, I mean, like, I'm not trying to criticize, but you're in the American economy, which every fucking day when I read the paper, it's just like, well, the U.S. economy has gone down again. It's like, and you guys are just like, well, we'll just put all of our money into this investment. We'll see what happens. It's like, holy shit. I mean, was there any type of like, you know, did any of your friends kind of be like, hey, man, you guys should probably, like, fucking bite the bullet, and this is fucking reality. This is not fucking playtime anymore. You know, did you come across anything like that?
I think that's the thing too. Neither of us, I don't think we're open enough with anybody for them to understand. I kind of opened up to my mom when I told her this. When I told her, she goes, do you think you'll make a good amount of money off of Meat Boy? And I said, yeah, but we have to pay back Microsoft first for what we owe them for localization and everything else. And she's like, how much was that? And I said, $100,000. And she goes, oh my God, are you going to be able to do that? And that was when my mom realized what was invested.
Wow.
Like, not only did I have money, but we also owed people money.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like,
that was going to be out of our first check. Mm-hmm. And, like, to anybody who you tell that to, they're like, wow, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a big risk. But the thing is the people that, like, the like-minded community, the people that we work with, everybody goes through this. Everybody did this. Everybody invests everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you look at any company that did that. Even the Behemoth, right? Alien Hominid. I don't even know I mean, maybe I shouldn't be talking about their personal stuff or whatever, but Alien Hominid didn't make a lot of money for them. It didn't, like, it wasn't, because it was retail and they had to go through a publisher. It didn't make them a great deal of money, and they were in a situation where Castle Crashers was make or break, and they were risking a lot. Like, they had I'm pretty sure one of the guys like took out he was going to lose his home, like crazy shit. Like everybody, almost everybody that you read about that is a success story sacrificed greatly to get there and took a big risk to do it. Like, but the thing is, again, this falls back on logic. I don't think either of us deep down logically thought that we were going to fail to the point of not being able to make our money back.
Yeah.
I think we both
we
knew.
didn't invest a whole bunch.
Yeah, we didn't have a whole bunch. Yeah, we didn't have a whole bunch, so we weren't going to lose that much. Yeah. And I think we both knew that we'd be able to make enough to at least make another game and continue.
Right.
But I mean, you just gotta, sometimes what we sacrificed was more mental anguish.
Yeah.
Than finances, because I mean, I'd been poor for forever, so I knew how to live poor. Wasn't a huge deal.
Yeah. It's incredible to think. Like, I mean, like I said, I don't mean to rehash it and stuff, but I mean, like, we're just out of school and we're trying to, like, as soon as you finish school here in Canada, like, you get government assistance for going to school. So you're thinking, wow, I mean, our program costs, $6,000 a year to go to, but then you get out and you realize everything that you had government assistance for, they're like, time to start paying it back. And you look at interest, and then you're looking at the bill and you're just like, holy shit, I need to find a job. I need to find something that's going to sustain me for the next 10 years, and I have to work for the man. And it's like, I don't have time to work for risks right now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, it's obviously different down in the States, I suppose, in some ways.
It's more expensive.
It's more expensive.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure, because you guys, like, you're
people go into huge debt. Like, everybody I know is still paying off, like, everybody who went to college is still paying off college loans.
Oh, yeah, my friends that...
And all those people are not doing what they went to college for.
No. Yeah, and you guys are, like, in your early 30s, aren't you? So, I mean, this would have been back, like, more than 10 years ago when people were going to school?
Yeah.
Holy shit, man.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's still, man, I know my one friend... The only one I know that's actually doing what his degree is, he's a lawyer, I think. I guarantee. Yeah, it's pretty but I believe he's still paying on it because he went to like some crazy he went to like Duke or some shit like that, which is like $38,000 a year for college.
Every single person that is around my age, including every young relative in my whole family, is in debt. From college.
My sister is in debt, and she's not done. It's retarded.
It is insane. Like, how are you supposed to, in some ways, like, how are you supposed to get your foot in the door and, like, make a head in life if you can't even, as soon as you start the door, they've already got you down the hole. So.
Yeah.
Well, the key factor here is that it's kind of shitty. Like my story about being inspired by somebody who came into high school, like that's where it starts.
Yeah.
You need some sort of inspiration and motivation in high school before you go to college. You don't go to college because you're not sure what you want to do.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're not sure what you want to do, volunteer your fucking time in places you think you might want to work.
Yeah.
Do that.
Figure it out.
Exactly. No,
I'm telling you, I can't think of one person that went to college for 4+ years and then is now doing what they went to college for.
I honestly can't either. Except my one friend that's a lawyer.
Like you have to know. Like you have to know when you're going in. Like even if you go through college, you kind of have an idea what you want to do, and you fucking just fly right through it and do great.
Even he's not doing what he wants. He wanted to be a lawyer that handles the sale of airplanes. Like it's like an FAA lawyer.
That's really specific. That's really fucking specific.
But I mean that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
I don't think I know he's not doing that yet. I mean, he may be working up towards it, and I think of any of my friends, he would be the one that would actually get to what he wants.
That's incredible.
But again, like in their defense, like what we're doing is creative.
Yeah, it's
and not everybody is a creative person.
And not everybody's a crazy risk taker either.
I mean,
in making like $40,000 a year and having a house payment and going to the movies on weekends with your wife. I mean, that's a lot of stability right there. People don't like stuff that's just chaotic and constantly changing around them. So
because you don't want to. I mean, that's the whole thing too. Because if you have like, I mean, a lot of our friends are finding out. You're done school. The relationships are starting to develop with people. You're either getting. I mean, Adam got married less than a year ago, and I mean, if he gets a job somewhere, that affects his wife. So I mean, what do you do, right? Like, you can't just be like, well, honey, I invested all of our money today in this game. I hope it works out for us.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well, that's hard too. Like, relationships doing this is hard.
Well, you guys are both married. Are you both married? I know one of you
Edmund
said
is.
Edmund is. So
Tommy's crying now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have an awesome girlfriend now, though. But no, I was forever alone. Like I was alone since 2003, 2005.
Yeah.
All until this year. I was totally alone.
Dude, we have to put in some sort of like sad music right at that
Yeah,
point.
please do. Yeah.
Slow him down a bit, like pace it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was alone.
But like, I mean, for you and your wife, Edmund, does that mean that like any of this stuff affected her? Was she kind of like, "Are you out of your fucking mind?"
Our whole life has been. I mean, I'm sure it's very odd for Danielle. You want to come in here?
She went upstairs.
Okay.
It's like, I'm not no Canadian.
She's like, "Fuck you." No, she's up there. When this whole thing started, so I tried to, get a real job at one point, and in all honesty, like, I'm just not cut out for it. Like, I was an animal control officer, and I think, I don't know. I mean, who knows where it would have gone, but I did get fired from that job, and when I got fired from that job, I kind of put us in a really shitty situation because I was making okay money then, and then suddenly nothing. And we moved from like an apartment back into a room that we'd been living in before, which was in a house full of shitloads of people. It was like a college kind of situation over there.
Yeah.
It sounds horrible, but it was like the memories were great. Like it was really fun being so poor, and there's just a comfort in that, I guess. But anyway, so that's when I decided that I wanted to really try and just be independent and do art. And I was still doing, all my Flash stuff and stuff like that, but I still wasn't making money off of it. So I tried to get freelance work, basically doing what I was doing. I ended up volunteering a lot of my time, and this is my secret, right? This is how this is the whole stepping stone process. I didn't have a portfolio, and all the stuff that I had was way too weird to try to sell like a corporate type person on, like, hey, I'm good at drawing and
Right. Yeah.
So I needed stuff for my portfolio. So what I did was I mass emailed all these different magazines and newspapers and local places that I thought were interesting to me, and said, I'm an artist and I'm starting out and I'm looking to get pieces for my portfolio. Will you let me work for you for free?
Right.
And during this time, Danielle was a dog groomer, and she was working to support us, and she was the only one that was making any money. And so after a few months of this, I was able to build up enough of a portfolio to secure a job as a magazine cover artist for a local magazine, which made enough to pay the rent, so Danielle didn't have to work as much.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started volunteering my time at a independent company called Chronic Logic, which just happened to be down the street from where I lived.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I met Alex Austin, and when I started to get really serious about indie games and stuff. And I realized, you can make an indie game and sell it off your site and make money off of it, because they were already doing that with a game called Bridge Builder.
Okay.
So I kind of threw myself into the idea of making games, real games, not just Flash games. And I came up with a concept for a Gish, and I pitched it to Alex, and eventually we started working on it. And 6 to 8 months later, the game came out, and again, that was a big risk. I ended up borrowing a lot of money from them in order to get by.
Wow.
It sounds stupid now, but I think I owed them $1,800.
Oh, no.
But back then, that was insane.
Yeah.
That was multiple months of rent. I think we were only paying like $550 for a room.
Yeah.
And the game came out, and it made more than I borrowed, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and went on to win the grand prize in the IGF in 2005, and that's where this all kind of built from. It's when I was like, oh, okay, well, I have a voice here. I used to do comics, and that was my voice, my creative voice. And I learned to speak through games, and that's my chosen, medium. And I think after the IGF win, I realized that this is what I was going to get serious about, and this is what I was going to do, and what I was going to try to make a living off of.
That's incredible. That's an excellent story of inspiration for anyone who's listening, because
one thing that I think is really fucking cool about what you guys do is, and Andrew, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but I really think it's cool how Danielle, you kind of work together in a sense where you make a game and then she makes merchandise for the game, you know what I mean, with the plushies and whatnot. I think that's fucking rad, and it's a really good idea. You know what I mean?
And it's really cool. I mean, it's also really fun for her to do. And that all came from. It's also a funny story. So she supported me through all that. She supported me through all the gift stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once it took, God, how many years? It took another 3.5 years for me to start making enough money to say, I want to support you in what you want to do. And then 2008 was a really great year for me, and I made a good deal of money. I made almost $40,000 that year. That was the most I've ever made in my life.
Wow.
Oh, shit.
I worked my fucking ass off. And I think I made about 8 games that year, Flash games. And that was, by that time, I was getting them all sponsored. One of them was with you.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah. And it was around that time where Danielle was miserable. She worked 3 years. She was working with kids with autism, and it wasn't hard for her to work with the kids, but it was really hard to work with the parents.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And so she just couldn't hang it. She was miserable. She was always talking about how miserable she was.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, well, I'm making enough money. How about you just focus on your plush work, which is what was her hobby at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple years later, I mean, she's making good money off of her work now.
Mm-hmm.
Not just my own stuff too. I'm talking about you.
So basically, you're saying that she was able to, you were making enough money that you could have been like, listen, dear, you don't have to work right now because I'm going to take care of this stuff.
Yeah, and then
that's so fucking adorable.
Well, she already did it for me.
I know.
That's the reason why Gish happened.
That's like less adorable though when I did it.
Yeah.
And then you were just a bum.
Yeah, I was just a bum. My girlfriend was. I had her out working, shaving dogs, and hanging out with autistic kids.
I still got to do all the house work and all that stuff.
Bonus.
Who's gonna take that away from me?
Oh, this is amazing.
But the funny thing is that I think about 6 to 8 months after she started and selling her work and stuff, she was actually almost making what she would have been making at her job through her own independent work.
Oh, wow. Holy shit, man. You guys are just fucking
Killing it.
success story after success story here.
That leaves
Now
me
she
with-
just
How's
naps.
your leg now?
Now she naps and
Stinks.
what else do you do?
I play Isaac.
And she does
Nice.
her blog.
Hey, go down.
She does her fashion
Cute-
blogs.
Cute plush.
Makes cute plush. No, she's actually working on Isaac plushes right now.
I tried to clean up the house, but there's fake money all over the ground.
And that's another thing. Yeah, for fun, Tommy and I. So okay, another story for you.
Okay.
So as a fun creative project that I really wanted to do, I decided to make an Binding of Isaac development zine.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Which was going to be hand printed, and I was going to actually silk screen the cover. It's going to be this cool little creative project, and I was going to do a limited run of 110, and then like draw, because there's 110 items in the game, and I was going to draw an item on each of the backs of it, like a unique little deal. So I'm in the process of like copying these things at Kinko's. Where the hell did you go?
I'm right here.
And while I'm making copies, I look over and Tommy's like, I just came up with this genius idea. I can't believe no one thought of this. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? He has a bunch of 1s and 10s, and he's making color copies of them repeatedly, which is completely illegal.
Yeah, holy shit, man. Like,
And like now, what it's
Well,
hilarious.
number one, okay, so they weren't like really good copies. I didn't make them straight on the thing, so they like have a line.
Yeah, they're all broken up.
and
There's
they're
like half of them.
Yeah. But yeah.
So currently what we did was we cut them all out and then kind of crumpled them up so they really look
They're
real.
only one-sided too.
Yeah, they're only one-sided. They're white on the other side. But then on the other side, we wrote stuff like 100% real and like not fake.
Yeah.
And now they're all over the ground in the living room.
I love how you guys are like you have this like hard ass integrity of just like, we'll do this, and then the one of you is just like, oh my
Let's
god,
make money.
we can scan real money.
I just thought it was such a brilliant idea. That before.
Yeah, and it was.
That's awesome.
The plan is to take that money and then go downtown and leave it places and watch people pick it up.
Yeah.
Because one of the dollars says Jesus saves on the back of it.
Yeah.
I want to see the reaction to that.
Oh man, are you still doing the development zine? Because you kept saying like I was gonna do it.
This was like 2 or 3 days ago.
Oh, okay.
So
So it's still in
I had
development.
strep throat.
Yeah, he was super sick.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I forced him to come with me.
so here's a question for you. Obviously, like, Meat Boy was successful and Isaac's doing really well, and you guys are just doing fucking well in general, based off of what you're saying and what I've read and whatnot. Now that you guys actually have a significant amount of funds, has it taken a lot of stress out of developing the next game? Because I know there's a lot of pressure where it's like, oh, the next Team Meat game, it's got to be fucking gangbusters and whatnot. Now.
Yeah, even with Meat Boy and stuff, the pressure didn't come until the end, and it was mostly artificial pressure that was pushed on us by outside sources.
Yeah.
I think we deal with development really well.
Yeah,
and I think we'll deal
for
with
us is fun.
Yeah, I think we'll deal with development for the next game very well as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, who knows? We'll see what happens. Like with Isaac, I worried that there's always stuff in the back of your head like, will I be as motivated because I was motivated a lot before because I needed to make money.
Yeah.
Motivation with Isaac was there's a part of me, and I know Tommy heard me say this, where it's like my name's on this. It has to be good. Like this represents me, and
exactly.
And this one's more me independently. Like with Meat Boy, it's a lot easier because this isn't a knock to Florian at all. And if Florian hears this, this isn't an insult. But like Tommy works his magic with programming, and especially with controls and stuff like that too. So when I'm working with Florian, it's more of like I'm a kind of director, and he gets the job done and everything, but I don't have somebody else there like as experienced as Tommy on the other side. And I of course worried greatly, and I think Tommy can vouch for me there. I was worried that the game wasn't good enough, and I was worried that the people weren't going to get it. And it's not really a pressure of like, hey, it's Meat Boy guy and whatever else. And some people have mentioned it, but the game is the opposite of Meat Boy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So far from Meat Boy. And for me, creatively, the reason why I did it is I wanted to do something that was even more risky, I guess, in a way. Like I wasn't having to worry about ESRB or anything else like that, and I wanted to make something really, really, really dark and weird.
Yeah.
Because that's what I felt like doing at the time, and the thing that makes me the happiest right now when I read blogs and stuff and reviews that say like I really like the game is how much they comment on how dark and odd the content is, yet still like the game. It makes me happy to know that like people are so accepting of something so strange.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it just makes me feel like now we can push the envelope even more with the next game, which we will. And I don't know, the next game that we're working on, I'm really already happy with the theme and where the direction it's kind of going already, and it's barely even done. Like barely anything's happening.
Nothing is really done.
But
Stuff.
Yeah, but the theme and the ideas and I guess the flavor of the game or the message behind it or whatever else, like the way things are coming together, is really inspiring to me, and I'm really excited to work on it.
Don't ever say flavor again.
The game's like Bejeweled Twist.
Oh man. Well, I got a question. If you guys, I'm not gonna do like the whole. I don't mean it to come across this way, but honestly, like from what you've learned from your own personal experience, if you could talk to like the 20-year-old version of you who wants to be like, I want to do games, I want to do this. And there are other kids out there who are going to school for this, or they want to go to school. They're still in high school and they're playing your games. What advice would you give that, obviously nothing's going to be perfect, but what could you say to steer them in the right direction from, if you can reinforce anything that you've already talked about in this episode, like doing the volunteer work or anything like that, but what would you say?
I would say that if you want to make games, you should make them. And you shouldn't, even if it's a small scale game, the people that try to make a game and fail are the people that are like, oh, I want to make an MMO that's more popular than Warcraft, or I want to make something that looks better than Red Dead Redemption or something like that. And that's too much of an abstract concept, and it's too much of an ambitious concept to start on. But if you just start creating, and if you want to be an artist, you draw. If you want to be a programmer, you program. And you have to. The only way you get good at stuff like that is by just doing it on your own and actually enjoying it. Because when you enjoy something, you naturally get better at it because you enjoy doing it.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a really good point.
Yes, I think one of the other key factors, especially, I'm just thought about this right now. Like, I can say that I'm just as happy now as I was when we were working on Meat Boy before the crazy shit. But
Awesome.
we were working on Meat Boy. I'm just as happy then as I am now because doing this is what makes me happy.
Yeah.
Releasing a game does not make me happy.
Yeah.
Money doesn't actually make me happy.
Mm-hmm.
Praise and success makes me happy for a little bit. But it's fleeting. It goes away within a couple days and it's gone.
Yeah.
But the creation process is what I love, and that's what makes me happy. If that's what makes you happy, I think you're going to do well regardless.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you guys nailed it on the head when you said that all the friends that you have, none of them are doing what they went to school for.
Yeah.
And I mean, they've probably got their other responsibilities that they have to do, but you guys focused on what you liked and what you want to do.
Yeah, and it's also like Tommy was saying too. It's keep it simple, and also just don't give up.
We know from personal experience in our family that do not think that going to college is going to get you a job afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for
You
sure.
have to start doing it, and you have to have something to show for yourself because in a creative field, no one cares about what school you went to, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
no, for
true.
sure.
Help, but not guaranteed.
Yeah, exactly. If anything that I've learned about what school you go to is that if you run into anybody who's from that school from like 15 years before, all they want to do is bitch about that school and how bad it was for them.
Yeah. Like, so I went to community college for I think a semester and a half, maybe 2 semesters, and I had a profound moment. And I think I told you about this, but we've probably heard this before. I was taking a 3D Studio Max class, and I wasn't that ambitious when it came to school. I never was. I wasn't the kind of person that tried to get A's and B's. I always tried to just get by with doing the least amount of work possible. Because I knew that it didn't really matter, and it wasn't going to affect my future in any way. And it doesn't. Spoiler alert, high school doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you fully on that one. Yeah.
Man,
Jesus.
I can't even fucking... It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Like,
so it doesn't matter.
it matters. It doesn't matter at all. Yeah, my wife didn't go.
Yeah. Wow. No, well,
Okay.
Rich guy.
So when I was in college, again, this is another logic moment. I'm sitting there and I didn't want to get my degree in anything because it didn't seem to make sense to me why I needed it. Because I thought, okay, if I'm an artist, if I go in with a portfolio or whatever, if it's good enough, they're going to hire me. And I'm sitting in class, and I take the 3D Studio Max class, and I was working on this really crazy final project, and I was really proud of it. And the guy that I was sitting next to, we called him Paper Size, because he would repeat. There was a moment where he would keep saying paper size, and we made fun of him. He had hair growing out of his nose,
Oh.
out of the front of his nose,
Yeah.
like coming out, like he had some sort of barbs coming out, like gonna stab you out of his nose. Very odd guy. This guy sucked. I think he was kind of retarded. He was horrible. And his final project was complete garbage. It was embarrassing, right?
Yeah.
And then I overhear him talking to his friend saying, "Yep, this is the last class I'm taking, and I get my certificate." And I realized, oh my God, that's the certificate I'm going to be getting. And I've got to do this for another year.
Yeah.
And then I thought, what the fuck? If we both were going into a job interview, logically here, and he had his portfolio and his piece of paper, and I had my portfolio, why the fuck would they hire this guy that sucks?
Yeah.
I just left, and that was the end of it.
Because
that was the end of college.
that's the company you don't want to work at. It's the one that's like, oh, well, you have a degree, obviously you're better. Because that means that it's not run by people that know anything about what they're doing.
Yeah. It just doesn't make sense.
One of the ways that one of our professors when we were in school explained school is actually the way that I like it, because the way you're saying, like what you're talking about, makes complete fucking sense, and I agree with you completely.
Mm-hmm.
But he once said, when you come to school, you're not, like, especially for like something like animation, he's like, you don't want the piece of paper because it doesn't fucking matter as long as you can draw well and shit like that. What mattered, like what you're getting out of this is you're buying time. You're buying time to practice. You're buying time to meet people. You're buying.
Exactly.
And I'm like, when I think of it like that, I'm like, yeah, school is pretty good. But when I think about it in the traditional sense, it's like, Wow.
Yeah, we can relate to people when you say like this guy has the same piece of paper we do, and you look at their work and you're like, Jesus, tap dancing, Christ, like, are you serious?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I remember when I actually left school, and I think I told my mom, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not. This isn't going to happen. Like, I'm not going to do this. I don't like it, and it doesn't make sense to me. And I even told her why. Like, I explained to her the whole piece of paper thing.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, it's just, I think it's something that's stuck in most people where they just don't question it. You go to college, you get your piece of paper, and then you get a job.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's just really not like that.
No, it's not. That's not how life
and like
works.
you said, there is experience. There are of course pros of going to college. In a creative field, honestly, I think it's questionable.
Yeah.
Oh, I definitely agree with that one for sure.
Because like if I would have gone to the 4-year college that I was supposed to go to, which was the Arts Academy in San Francisco, that I ended up not being able to go to because my family couldn't afford it, I would have lost 4 years. And I would never have made This Is a Cry for Help. I would have never met Tommy. I would have never experienced all these things because that's what I was doing instead of going to college. I was simply doing what I loved that ended up being my career.
Yeah.
I was finding out what I wanted in life.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, college can be, a fog, where it's blurring your vision of what you might want. You're kind of being told what you're supposed to want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah.
You hit definitely for sure.
And I think a lot of people need to come to the conclusion that there are certain people out there, their ideal life doesn't necessarily mean wealthy, well off.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. And I honestly, what happened with me was never something I thought would happen. I thought I would always be poor and happy, and that. Yeah, my wife was saying she never felt like she was poor when we were poor, and I never felt like I was poor either. I always had what I needed. It's
true,
but we were.
Well, you look back on, you're like, holy shit.
But I didn't think this was going to happen because it didn't seem. Again, this is logic. It didn't seem logical that I would be able to make any kind of amount of money off of what I was doing because my stuff was too weird.
Yeah.
It was just too personal and too odd.
Yeah.
And I never thought a large majority of people would ever like it.
Hold on. I can't hear you.
Tommy just left. But yeah, this has been a roller coaster. The cool thing is like you mentioned with Indie Game the movie, they captured this.
We're looking forward to seeing that.
This whole thing, like they captured the moment I went from making $20,000 a year to Super Meat Boy releasing and like selling shitloads of copies. This insane, life-changing experience. They were there for 9 months of it. Like, and that was the coolest thing ever. Like we got to see a screening of the movie recently, and it was just insane.
I'm fucking dying to see it, and it's going to be interesting too because like I said, I've been following you specifically for a while now. So when you guys started putting out information for Super Meat Boy, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm in. Like this is happening. So when you guys released it, like the day it came out, I remember coming home from either work or school or whatever I was doing, and I downloaded it and I was playing it. And I'm like, oh man, this is cool. I bet it's going good for them right now because it's out on the Xbox. What could go wrong? And then you see the trailer. And little things like I wouldn't even notice having not been in that position, but like it not being on the front page and like all the issues you were having, like it's going to be really interesting as someone who was there from the consumer side of it to see how you, the creator, went through it on the other side. Whereas I was like, oh, this is awesome. Everything must be all like shits and roses, and it wasn't.
Yeah, it's yeah. All I can say is, I mean, it's hard to put into words, but it was just a life-changing experience.
Wow.
It just so happened to be captured on film by two people who really knew what they were doing as well.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is with them is they're what they are doing parallels what we're doing so much in so many ways. It's completely insane. Like they're going through all the same stuff that we went through with our game, with their launch of their movie, and it's fucking magic.
Wow, that's fucking awesome.
It's again like. We're two people who made this game. There are two people who made this movie, and they're succeeding in so many awesome ways. And like, it's just really cool to see it kind of happen. And yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to put it into words. It's just so bizarre.
Yeah,
it's weird to see you in on film. Like it still doesn't seem real to me because it's something that I watched in my home with
Yeah.
them. So it's like it seems like a home movie in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be really odd when it comes out and people see it. But I hope it'll inspire a lot of people, and I hope it'll open people's eyes to what independent gaming is. And,
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. I can totally see that. I mean, I've only seen the trailer, and just from talking with you for the past hour or so, I'm just like,
I wanna make
yes, I
something.
totally get this. I need to go home and make some shit. You know?
Well, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess Tommy walked away. I don't know if this is a great question to ask now, but one thing that I find interesting and a lot of people aren't prepared for, and I know I wasn't when you start working on whether it be independent shit or studio shit, is the dynamics with working with someone else. Like I know people and have experiences with myself where like as an artist you'll do something and someone who let's say has no experience with art starts telling you what to do, like they know what they're talking about and all that shit. Like you guys, and like it seems like you guys don't really like I know I've heard in like the indie game podcast and all that shit, you guys don't seem to fight that often, but I'm curious as to what your dynamic is. Like, do you code at all? Does he have a say in the art? Like, I'm really curious on how.
Yeah, I wish he was here. I think he's on an emergency call with his family. But so I've worked with a lot of different people,
Yeah.
a lot of different programmers and stuff, and the programmer-artist relationship can be very odd at times, and it gets bad when toes are stepped on.
Yeah.
When a programmer feels like they have artistic input and they want to put their 2 cents in, or they feel like they're a musician or whatever else, and it gets bad. Like it gets messy. With Tommy, I think we're both so strong in such specific areas. Like it's like a puzzle piece. Like we go together so well, and no toes are stepped on because I know jack shit about programming.
Yeah.
Like it's just not something that I am interested in all in, and he is all about it.
That's
Like,
awesome.
He's the best programmer that I've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing, and he really knows what he's doing, and he enjoys that. And I think that's the key thing. Like he really, really enjoys that. He enjoys doing that, and I really enjoy designing and drawing. Where we come together with the design, it usually has to do with how the game handles and feels. We can meld together with that, and we both on the same page with the kind of games that we like. So I think we both just complement each other when it comes to controls and stuff like that, difficulty, and we're just on the same page with a lot of things.
I think it comes into that whole thing about being in the right place at the right time, meeting the right people. I mean, you look at somebody like Stanley and Jack Kirby, you put the two of them together, they can make really great stuff. You separate them, they're not so great on their own. You know what I mean? It's that really good team combination that can happen.
Yeah.
And I think another key thing though is also just being able to have fun with it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that should be the key factor or the theme of everything we're saying here. Like, if you're having fun doing it, it's going to be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And working with Tommy was a blast. It was fucking fun. I mean, hanging out with Tommy on a day-to-day basis is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Making games with him is fun, and everything is fun. Even the horrible shit, and you'll see it in a movie. Even the worst shit possible, if Tommy was around or I was talking to him, was still laughable.
That's
because,
awesome.
He was my friend, and we're both experiencing this laughably awful stuff at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why the game succeeded. I think you can see our connection through the game in a lot of ways. And it's a very hard thing to find. It's just, what's the word? Kismet? I think it's Kismet. When things just come together perfectly. Like, it just happened, and it was perfect.
That's awesome.
It took a while. Like, I worked with at least 10 different programmers in my career.
Yeah.
Some of them ended really bad.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question for you, actually, and this is a little more like personal. How the fuck do you find programmers, dude? Because like I would like to go more into games and maybe do some of my own shit one day. Like I'm still trying to figure out where I belong and what I want to do, right? Personally.
Yeah.
I tried to learn how to code when I was in high school, and I took Visual Basic, and it was the only class I ever failed. So I'm not a programmer. I learned that real fucking quick. So how would somebody how did you go about doing it? Did it just happen naturally by you having an internet presence, or did you actually?
I mean, it kind of happened. I mean, they've always kind of come to me. Like, I'll give you two great examples. The first one was after Gish, I got an IM from this Austrian kid. He was young, and he was like, I really love Gish. I love physics, and I want to show you this prototype I'm working on. And he made this Flash prototype of a spider, and you could grab its legs and move them around. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. I said, I could make a game out of this. Like, I could design a game around this. You want to make a game? And of course, he was all about it because he was a big fan of Gish.
Mm-hmm.
That ended up being Triachnid, and that was Florian, who I ended up making multiple games with.
Wow.
Wow.
And it just came out of that. Another example was another young kid. I don't know how young he is actually. Approached me about this prototype. What was it? It was this kind of weird bat prototype. It's this really weird little character running around the screen, and just wanted my opinion on it, if it was good. And I saw some potential in one of the mechanics that he was playing around with.
Mm-hmm.
Again, said, hey, well, you want to make a game? I can turn this into a game. I got an idea for a game that would fit this format, since you already have the engine in place. And that turned into Time Fuck. And another example was another kid just started getting into programming, made a tile engine, a very crude, very, very basic tile engine. His name was John. And he IMs me with his tile engine and says, hey, I'm working on this game called Verigo, and I want you to check it out. Do you think you want to work on it with me? And I'm like, I don't know. It's pretty simple. It was really, really crude. But I had some characters down on paper, and those characters were Meat Boy and Dr. Fetus. So it would be pretty cool to just do a character-driven platformer that was pretty hard. That was vertically scrolling, and that turned into Meat Boy.
Wow. That's
where these things kind of come from. It's just not all of them are like that, of course. Those are the three key ones. That where somebody approached me and said, hey, I was inspired by something you were working on. Do you want to work with me, or what do you think of this, or can you make a game out of this? The other times it was, hey, I got an idea, and can you program? Let's make a game. But it's usually always people that I've talked to online for a certain period of time and gotten to know them first.
So you just got to kind of get your presence out there, and I guess that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, again, I started out doing, there weren't games. I was doing shit like, the first programmer that I met was through, he was a fan of my animations. I was doing animations for Newgrounds, and I did an interactive game thing called Dead Baby Dress Up.
I remember that.
And it's just funny how these things happen. I go on Newgrounds one day, and there's this fan animation where it's like me and a bunch of other people dancing around to music in this Flash animation. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And his screen name was Rift. And I contacted him, and I was like, that was pretty cool. And he's like, hey, I programmed we should try to make a game sometime. And his name was Calder. And I ended up making 6 games with him.
Wow.
And they were the first games that I ever made. They were all in Flash. And that's just kind of how it happens. I started out as simply just an artist. And then I got kind of pushed into design and then really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I just have gotten better over time, and I hope to get much, much better as I get older.
Awesome, dude.
I have a question here. In Toronto, there's actually a pretty big, you might already know this, but there's a pretty big indie game scene here in Toronto where we live. And one of my buddies, Sean McGrath, who's working on a game for the PlayStation Network called Dyad, he has a question for you that I have here that I'm going to read to you. One thing that really stood out to me in Super Meat Boy was the level design. Not so much the layout or anything like that, but rather the pacing and evolution of the levels. Mechanics seem to be introduced, isolated from everything else, gradually combined, deeply explored, forgotten, and then reprised. How conscious of this were you? And were you deliberately attempting to structure it this way? Was it just a natural byproduct of other design decisions? And what was your process designing these aspects of the game?
Yeah, all those things were all on paper first.
Wow.
It was exactly how I wanted the game to be. Even to, the greater extent. I tried to make the game... I forget what the fucking word is. It's when something starts with something and then flows back into the thing it started with. There's a word for this. I'm totally fucking forgetting it. Starts and ends with the same almost like a palindrome, if you will. Something that goes the same way backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
The structure of the whole game is made that way. Like the introductory mechanics in the forest are mirrored by Chapter 5. They're the same mechanics, but the levels are doubled in size, and also has to do with and sometimes tripled in size. But there's only 5 levels, so it's like there was a lot there that I was playing around with that I was very conscious of and thinking about. The formula of introduction goes mechanic introduction, new use of same mechanic. Then the third one would be you take that mechanic and then also apply it to an older mechanic, and then introduce a new mechanic. And that was the formula through all the chapters. And it kept things entertaining, and it kept the player, it was new and fresh always. And that was my major goal when doing it, is I was basically designing for an ADD kid. Like with no attention span, because I kind of don't have any attention span, and I need constant stimulation when it comes to that sort of stuff too. So I designed the structure of the game in that aspect, like it's for fucking kid who drank a shitload of Kool-Aid and.
You really are a child of the '90s, aren't you?
Yeah. So, yeah, and I was refining this technique of platforming and mechanic introduction in many different games in the past, like Spure and Time Fuck were both big ones that helped inspire the final look and feel of Meat Boy, because Super Meat Boy, in a lot of ways, like Meat Boy, very, very primitive. Like introduction's similar, but it was super, super primitive. And I took more inspiration from the later games that I did, like Time Fuck and Spure, when it came to mechanic introduction and that sort of stuff too. And yeah, I totally get off on like reprising things and kind of designing and song structure and stuff like that. Like I tend to like even in The Binding of Isaac, there are these things that I call fuck, can't remember what I call them.
I call it fuck.
Precursors. There are these little worms, and I'm spoiling, so close your ears if you don't want to. But there are these little worm things. They look like worms. They look kind of like Spure. They appear in the first chapter, and they kind of just walk or flop around on the ground. They don't do anything, but they have a boss bar. And they're a precursor to something that happens at the very end of the game when you unlock everything. And it's to do with that appears there. And I just like doing that sort of stuff. Like, and with Meat Boy, like I said, like the last chapter mirrors the first chapter in mechanic, except all the levels are way longer. So like the whole anyway, yeah. That's
wicked, man.
Yeah. And one thing that I think is really interesting with the games you do, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, is the way you kind of you approach story, because you kind of show a lot of a simple story without showing a lot of that story. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally hear you. I've been actually waiting for this question.
Nice.
Sweet.
Because with Isaac, this was something like I did it a lot with Meat Boy. It's telling a story without telling a story in traditional fashion. Like I want to be able to tell the story with my wife hates this word, with the flavor of the game. I like to tell a story with the game itself.
Yeah.
I like to set a theme and a feel with the contents of what's happening without directly saying anything. And then with Isaac, that's almost 100% that. Like you've got this story that seems direct, right?
Yeah.
But the story is written or drawn on paper by Isaac. So already you start to question if the story is really the story and what's happening here.
Yeah.
And then the story, in quotes, is then structured together with these bizarre themes, dreams of situations that he's remembering. The characters that he's fighting look oddly similar to him. Like just all these little details that all are significant to the theme and the story of the game, without there actually being a story.
Yeah,
like it's not a direct story. I just think it's more thought provoking, and And if people don't want to think about it or don't get it or don't care, it doesn't matter because it still comes off as odd.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's good enough.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I'll refer to Isaac specifically, seeing how it's fresh in my mind. I think that's really fun, cool, and I noticed it myself. I'm not going to go into details because it's a spoiler, but I killed Mama last night, and I got the ending, and after seeing the ending, I was like, something seems like there seems to be more here than what you're actually saying. And I know there's multiple endings, and I haven't gotten those endings yet, but I like the fact that it's kind of something that old games did, where you get enough so that you know the context of what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, I'll use something like the classic Super Mario Brothers. You know exactly what's going on. Princess got stolen, Mushroom Kingdom, you're this plumber guy, you're going to save her. Everything else is left up to your imagination, right? Exactly. So with Isaac, I have my version of Isaac in my head, what I think's going on right now. Now, that might not match up with your specific ideas when you were writing it, and it might change as I get more endings and play it with the different characters. But the fact that you've done that, it makes it feel like it's more the players. So my Isaac feels like mine, you know what I mean? Like it's my story.
And in a lot of ways, and this is a refinement for me. Like, I'm learning the vocabulary of game design. You know, I've been learning it for years. I'm learning how to speak through what I'm doing, and I'm refining it as I go. My older games are very direct, and I went through my phase of, the semi-pretentious kind of like artsy-fartsy type abstract, that sort of. I went through that phase too, and I learned a lot from that, and I've been refining it as I go, and I hope to get better. But yeah, I mean, and a lot of that is inspired by old games, and for me, and the prime example, especially for Isaac, is Zelda. Like when I was little, I had my own interpretation of the story. I never read anything about the game, and I knew nothing about it. But that's what made the game so magical to me. And with Isaac, it complements the gameplay because it's so mysterious. Like, you don't know what's around the corner. You don't know what items are there. You don't know what's going on. You have an idea of what's going on, but it's so open-ended that it brings the player in to the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not talking at you. I'm having a conversation about what I'm doing. And in a lot of ways, when I was designing this game, it was so open, especially with theme. I had all these inspirations that were coming from all directions. And in my mind, I'm thinking, like, I don't understand what I'm doing. Like, I don't know what I'm saying here, but all these things seem to be significant. And I'm trying to figure that out myself as an artist. I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to say here, but I don't want it to be I don't want a yes or no answer. I don't want it to be this specific thing, because if it is, then that's all it is.
Yeah.
And then it stops coming in. And it's kind of like you have to be open to everything and let it all seep in and inspire you, and just put out what you feels right.
Yeah.
And step back from it and try to figure out what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of people would argue against that and say it's just fucking random, but it's not.
No.
Like, it's very intentional, but the way you do it, it just feels more organic and inspired when you do it in a way that's open, and free. And the cool thing is like right now I'm actually going to start working on the expansion to Isaac.
Yeah.
I had a bunch of stuff on paper, like dream stuff. Like, I really wish this could get in the game, but I ran out of time, and I hope to do a Halloween update with all this content. And it's little extras here and there, but it's enough to make me feel even better about the game, and that's what's important to me. But in a lot of ways, I'm trying to think of how to conclude what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a conclusion yet, and I'm not upset about that, and I'm not obsessing about it, because I know that it'll all fall into place as I work. And that's how I work, and that's how Meat Boy worked, and that's how the next game will work. It's like, I have a good idea of what I want to say, but if I obsess over exactly how I'm going to say it, it'll come out forced, and I don't want to do that. And not only that, it'll also get bored with it.
Yeah.
Finish something in your head, then what's the point in doing it?
Wow.
That's
So
a
that's
really good. That's a really good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I mean, not just only for that, but if you're someone who's doing a comic or a short film or something, if they think like, oh, well, that's how I would do it, and then done, I'm done. You know, you don't get that time of exploration to figure it out.
Yeah, it's just not enjoyable for me.
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at
I
it.
tend to create in the same way I like to play. Like designing a game and playing a game are pretty similar. Like I'm exploring this untapped, this uncharted territory, and I'm filling it in as I go, and that's why it's fun, because it's just like playing a game. Like you're exploring and figuring things out, and if you just know the answers, it just kills the magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool because when I realized how you were telling the story, like when the light went off and I was like, oh, cool, like he's leaving a certain amount of it to me and he's not being completely clear. It's not exactly like it, and this is a really shitty word for it, but I was like, he's kind of telling the story in a Valvean kind of way, where it's like if you play Left 4 Dead, which I played a shitload of, there's a story there, but at first glance it just looks like, simple gamey type campaigns, right?
Yeah.
But as you go and you see the messages on the wall and you learn about all these things, and they tell. So when you discover that the story's there, it's there if you want it, and you can ignore it if you don't give a shit. But it's clear. Like once you learn the story, like there's the story and that's it. And that's what I appreciate of the way you're doing it. Is like you were saying, like it's up to me to a certain extent. You know what I mean? And which makes it more rewarding for the player, I find, as the player, and it just makes for an all-around more satisfying experience, I find.
Yeah, I appreciate the same things in games. Like, I think, there's just something to leaving the story, in quotes again, the story of the game, to up to the player to care about.
Mm-hmm.
Like even with Braid, like a lot of people talk about the story, and I worked on Braid, so I know the story, but the story, the written story, to me, is not at all as powerful as the story that you get from playing the game without reading anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was really, really. I mean, I thought that was one of the most awesome things about Braid. I really loved how he was able to tell this story without the text. Like,
yeah.
You didn't have to read it to really get what was going on and what the game was about.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. I appreciate all that stuff in games, and that's why I try to do it myself, to the best of my ability.
Yeah. Well, and also too, like I find when you do it like that, you avoid the player being like, "Oh, I like the story, but I would have done this differently," and then this and this and this. Because with Braid, I don't want to spoil anything, but like when I beat that game, I missed a lot of the really secret shit. So I had a certain view of it. It's like, oh, this is the story as I perceive it. And then I started reading up about what you get when you unlock all this secret shit, and I was just kind of like, I like it better my way, and then I can just have it that way. I don't have to be like, well, in this cutscene this happened, so I can't interpret it and just be like, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it also complements video games. Like,
yeah.
It complements the players. All video games are usually based around a player's need to solve a problem in some way. Everybody wants to see a problem and then solve it. Everybody likes puzzles, and when you make a story that is a puzzle in itself, or especially a creative puzzle where the players left to interpret things or assume a creative opinion about what's happening or whatever. I think it's really cool, and it really complements games. Like, it complements video games to be open-ended like that and not actually give you a definite answer, because then you become then the story becomes part of the puzzle and becomes more part of the game.
Yeah, which, I mean, a lot of people have been complaining. I've noticed as of late that games are, like, too many developers are trying to make games movies instead of making games.
Exactly.
So.
There's also something to overtelling. Like, I don't like overtelling a story.
Yeah.
I don't like overdeveloping things and explaining everything. Like, why is Meat Boy meat and all that sort of stuff too. There's an obvious reason why Meat Boy's skinless and why Band-Aid Girl is made of Band-Aids. Like, there's a reason behind these things, and I don't need to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's there because it's there, and if you want to think about it, you can think about it. If not, you don't need to. But like, in the same, like you were mentioning with Mario, like Mario was totally, I mean, to me, like an Alice in Wonderland acid trip, and I fucking guarantee those guys definitely were experimenting with drugs. And I of course they don't talk about it because I'm not a good image for Nintendo and all that sort of stuff too. But I'm certain of it. Like that's what they were talking about. That's what they were talking about. But then the game became a game, and became a video game character and everything else. And then they developed it and explained why he's there and what he's doing, and developed all the characters and everything else. And it became a completely different thing. But the original games still had that mystery and bizarre aspect to them, which was like obviously personal in some way. Like the themes in the games were personal in some way. Yeah. And I think that really comes through in those kind of games. Yeah. And I think in indie games usually it comes through. I don't think you can help it when you're working with a small team. It's just going to bleed into the game.
Yeah. Well, you were saying too about how like, Meat Boy has no skin and Bandage Girl is bandages and whatnot, and it, there's a reason, but you don't explain it. I always find it really funny when, because like I was watching tons of interviews with you guys before this, because I didn't want to like hit you with too many repeat questions. And whenever somebody's just like, "What kind of meat is Meat Boy made out of?" It's just like, "Oh fuck!"
Like, yeah, we see your reactions. You're like,
Yeah, that was an insanely common, horrible, horrible question that we got asked so often way back then. We still sometimes get asked now.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't know. Like, what do you want me to make of this time?
Yeah.
What would be funny at this point? Nothing is at this point.
Man. Yeah. Well, man, do you have any more questions? You
have been an absolute delight to talk to. This is amazing.
A gentleman and a
I'm sorry Tommy split. I don't know.
No, that's fine. You said he had an emergency. That's okay.
Yeah, it's just got to get taken care of. Trust me, I understand.
Oh, man. Yeah. So do you have any, please, by all means, pimp any websites or anything you'd like to go for right now, as long as it's not like, whitesupremacist.com, Just,
don't support whitesupremacist.com. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Whatever. I mean, Binding of Isaac, if you want to play it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whatever. If not, you could probably torrent it.
Just like a Team Meat, right?
It's only $4.50 though.
Yeah, it's honest to God. Like, let me tell you, I've already gotten my money worth out of it. The game's fucking awesome. It's tons of fun. It's fucked up. And it's really dark, and I like dark shit, so, and the soundtrack's badass.
Nice.
The soundtrack is awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and Danny's another one. I work super, super well with Danny, and I think I'll always work with Danny.
Nice.
Well, he's fucking good at what he does.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, dude, this has been a fantastic talk. Thank you so much for taking your time. You're on a Friday evening, or you probably have other shit to do, so really appreciate this.
I've got that Lego waiting for me.
I know you've probably just been like, oh, I want to play that fucking Lego so bad.
Fucking Canadians.
Yeah, goddamn.
It's awesome. It's like a full-on like Volkswagen. It's cool. It just came out.
Wait, is this like one of those Lego kits where it's like, get Lego set Volkswagen? Where
yes. Cool, though. It's a full Volkswagen like bug, not a bug, like the big ones, camper.
What?
Oh man.
Yeah, and it's like it's quite large, so like it's really intricate inside and stuff. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
I'm barely anywhere in it, and I'll be putting that together and watching Roseanne with Tommy as he works on the exporter for the next game.
Nice.
Right on, man. We'll let you get to it.
Awesome. Well, for Guys with Pencils, I'm Andrew Murray.
Adam Hines.
And this has been a chat with
Edmund. And Tommy as well.
And Tommy too.
And Danielle.
Yeah, and Danielle too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and have a great evening.
Sweet.
All right, take it easy.
Take it easy.
Later.
Thanks.